For the sake of this video, I ask you to imagine that we've reached a point in our human evolution where religion has become obsolete and we've all moved on to accept a secular worldview based on reason and science. If we were at such a place in our culture, we would realize that we have a great task ahead of us, and that is rethinking every aspect of human morality and human ethics. Though a significant portion of our Western culture may be secularized at this point, and atheism is growing rapidly in America and is the norm now in Western Europe, we still hold on to our old models of ethics and psychology. And what I mean by this is, though many people may not take the idea of the Christian God all that seriously anymore, all of our traditions of psychology and ethics and even philosophy are still rooted in a Christian epistemology, a Christian type of worldview. The way we look at human choice, morality, justice, sexuality, marriage, all of these things, though we may have gotten over our superstitions and the Bible, it's still in the back of our head. It's still sitting there in our subconscious, and we still tend to look at the world as Christians, even though we may or may not realize this. So to use an analogy, the blackboard needs to be erased. And if we are to imagine a time in the future where we've left behind religion, we could adopt a new worldview based on biology and Darwinian evolution as our new foundation for ethics and justice and psychology and sexuality and marriage and all the other things we have to think about. In this video, I want to talk about marriage from a secular point of view. Marriage as a tradition has failed. It's as simple as that. Monogamous relationships do not work, and looking at the statistics and the divorce rate, this is absolute evidence of that. The divorce rate now everywhere, not just in the West, across all different cultures, both pre-industrial and post-industrials, it is shown that marriages don't last. And it's not because of until death do us part, but because of divorce. The majority of married couples get a divorce within 15 years of their marriage. And as a culture, as a whole, we've reacted to this kind of strangely. Many people, instead of looking at the institution of marriage and saying, this institution has failed, it doesn't work, it's not a good model that fits well with human biology and human behavior, we have looked to place the blame on all other sorts of things. Feminists, and though I don't want to attack feminists, have the habit of saying, well, if you look at the divorce rate, it's because of porn, and it's because of the sexualization of our culture. Religious people will say it's because of those things as well, but other things, because of liberals and secularization and all kinds of stuff. Everyone has their own theories to why marriages aren't working in our modern age, but no one seems to stop and think that maybe it's the institution of marriage itself. If we get over our religious superstitions and move forward to a secular view of human nature, a natural, biological view of human nature, we will quickly realize that monogamy is not natural, definitely not lifelong monogamy. And there is good evidence to back up these claims. Now, I'm not going to go with the old Darwinian model and say that we have these gender roles to play where females are supposed to have as many babies as possible and males are supposed to go around impregnating as many females as possible, giving the men an excuse to whore themselves and saying that women should be more committed. That's not what I believe, and I think that's based on an earlier and false understanding of biology. New research shows that monogamy, at least for a period of time, is a good thing and benefits our species, if you look at it in terms of evolutionary biology. And here's why. Many other species of animals, whether kittens or toads or birds, are able to have babies very quickly and lots of them. So they can go around, the males in these species can go around and impregnate as many women as possible, and the females in the species can have as many babies as possible. But here's the key. In all other species, Babies develop into mature adults very quickly. If you look at kittens, it's about a matter of 3 to 6 months. In other words, the babies are able to be on their own very quickly. The mother nurses them for a few days or weeks or months and teaches them a couple of things, and then they go off on their own. Generally, species don't stay with the mother. They go off and very quickly have their own children. They learn and they adapt to their environment very quickly. We humans do not. So in the case of animals, they don't need to be monogamous because the children don't need the parents to stay together and teach them how to adapt to the world. It comes naturally. It comes as instinct. Whereas humans, the woman is pregnant for 9 months, but it takes a child about 18 years to raise. I mean, it may not take all 18 years, but the point is that human children need to learn a lot more than animals do in order to survive in our environment. With other species, it's mostly all instinct. It comes naturally. They are born and very quickly they go out in their environment and they're able to gather food and for themselves and protect themselves. Where humans, we have a lot more to learn. We have to learn how to speak, to grow food, to hunt and gather food, to build shelter for ourselves, to keep warm. And this takes a lot longer for us to learn to survive in our environments than it does for any other animal. And we can't just learn this all on our own very easily, and that's where the parents come in. Parents teach us how to survive, and it takes quite a while. In most cases, well over a decade. So in terms of evolutionary biology, human children, unlike animal babies, need the parents around for much longer. And so it benefits the children, our offspring, if both parents are there because it's more stable. The children learn quicker, they learn better, and they're better able to adapt to the world once they go out on their own and have a better chance of surviving. And that's the whole goal of evolution. And so monogamy, at least for 10 to 20 years, is a good thing in terms of human evolution, just in terms of biology, because it means that children will grow up more stably, they will learn more, they will learn quicker, and have a better chance of surviving on their own and having their own babies when they grow up. It would not be beneficial for men to go around impregnating every woman he meets and then leaving the woman, because the child will be left to be raised by its mother, which in many cases is not as stable as it would be if the child was raised by both a mother or father. So it's an evolutionary thing, and monogamy makes sense in light of evolution. On the other hand, lifelong monogamy and commitment, especially when there are no children involved or when the children are growing up and on their own, does not work. It is an institution that has failed us, and it will continue to fail, and the divorce rate will continue to grow because it is unnatural. And I know that many people, including atheists and people who accept biology, don't like to hear this. They don't like the implications. But it's simply a matter of fact. Here's another thing I often ask Christians to consider. Marriage was a very, was an institution that was created by human beings thousands of years ago. And but here's the thing. People back then got married very early on in their lives. Marriages were often arranged by the parents. They would get married at any time from age 8 to 13. But the life expectancy a few hundred years ago, and especially a few thousand years ago, was only about 30 to 35 years old. So back when marriage was created and sustained as an institution, people only remained married on average for 15 years because the husband or the wife would die, because that's what life expectancy was back then. So it wasn't like it is today. People weren't married for 40, 50, let alone 75 years. It just didn't happen. People didn't live that long. And if people did live that long, the divorce rate back then would be as popular as it is now, and we would have moved on from monogamy and lifelong marriage a long time ago. It's foolish to think that as our environment changes, that we don't need to adapt to it like any other species. Our environment has changed. We don't live in extremely hostile conditions anymore, where we're constantly threatened by disease and natural disaster and tribal wars and all types of things. Our life expectancy has tripled. Our lives are generally more comfortable. We have easy access to food and water and all the things we need that keep us alive. We live a lot longer, and yet our traditions are still based in an ancient period of time when we didn't live longer and when it was a lot easier to die early. Um, and so I really think that we need to rethink all of our traditions, all of our ethics, and all of our morals. We need to basically step out of the Stone Age. We have scientifically, technologically, as far as life expectancy and politics goes, but when it comes to certain institutions like marriage or our ethics, we haven't left behind the old ways of thinking and living. And it's not natural, and it's no surprise that the divorce rate is so high. So I just ask people to think about those factors that I mentioned. That's all for now. Peace.